Game day in the Midwest. We've been waiting all week for this one. Defense, offense, rankings. Listen, storylines are endless for this one. The only narrative that matters today, though, is finding a way to go 1-0. Nothing else needs to be said. The Unrivaled Pregame Show, live from Kinnick Stadium, starts now.
The question is, who's better? Is it Iowa or is it Penn State? It's the top team in the Big Ten.
Every year, you start looking in your preseason magazines and your helmet grid schedules, and you're trying to find that Saturday.
First meeting of top 5 teams at Kinnick Stadium since 1985.
This stage, this coming weekend, this is that next biggest opportunity.
It is the circle date.
Very tough to play in that environment. Fans on top of you. What a seed.
It is the game of the week in college football. It's number 3 Iowa hosting number 4 Penn State.
You are going to fight.
Can't wait for this weekend when Penn State, Iowa go head-to-head.
So you've got the second best scoring defense in the country in Iowa, the third best scoring defense in Penn State.
We're going to have some great wars in the Big Ten, and it starts this weekend with Iowa, Penn State.
Sprinting to just to avoid his safety, and he cannot. Javon Grifter hurdles a man and makes a first down. Penn State has it. That's a big-time football play. Do you believe that?
Both are riding long winning streaks dating back to last season.
What is the biggest factor in determining who wins this game?
Jackson, touchdown, Penn State. Close into the end zone, and it's intercepted. Brisker.
It's going to be a very physical football game here today.
Steps up, pressure to get it dropped.
It should be a great scene, and we hope a great game.
Everything, and I mean everything, is on the line. McSorley across the middle. Touchdown! Penn State wins it. A walk-off touchdown.
Oh, the chills of game day never get old. Welcome into the Unrivaled Pregame Show live from Kinnick Stadium as we get you set for kickoff between number 3 Iowa and number 4 Penn State. Should be a tremendous matchup today inside Kinnick Stadium as we do get you set. I'm your host, Mitch Gerber. Now, coming up on today's show, we'll visit with Penn State legend Trace McSorley. We'll also hear from first-year tight ends coach Ty Howell as they join us on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. And then, of course, we'll hear from Steve Jones, the voice of the Nittany Lions, to break down his player to watch in this matchup. Good little teaser right there to see what's coming up next. Now, the weather for this one is absolutely spectacular. You would be joking if you think it's October here in Iowa City, Iowa. It's 85 degrees at kickoff time, 47% cloud cover, and wind gusts upwards of 20 miles per hour. Once again, this game will be at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central on Fox, or as always, you can listen to Steve Jones and company on the Penn State Sports Network. Now, you get a live shot right now of the team who has officially left the team hotel and is arriving here at Kinnick Stadium. Not a far drive whatsoever, roughly just 10 minutes from point A to point B, as they will roll up to what is a scene of tailgaters for Iowa, as well as some fans, Penn State fans waiting right outside the gate, where they will walk into Kinnick Stadium for the first time in the 2021 season. First time since 2019. Now, speaking of 2019, let's go back and take a look at this matchup, as Kinnick Stadium has produced some memorable moments for Penn State over the course of James Franklin's tenure. This is 2019, number 10 Penn State taking on number 17 Iowa in front of 69,034 fans. Robert Windsor was the storyline in this one, as well as running back Noah Kane, as the relentless pressure from Windsor and a pair of second-half takeaways and a big fourth-quarter run by freshman running back Noah Kane pushed the Nittany Lions to a 17-12 win over the Hawkeyes. Pretty good one in this one. Kane, who gave Penn State a 17-16 lead with 5:17 remaining, was able to run out the clock with just 5 straight rushes, including a massive 5-yard run and a third 3 to seal the game. Today's game marks the first time Penn State squares off with Iowa as a top 5 opponent since 1999. That is a look right there of the team that is arriving inside Kinnick Stadium. They're just a few moments away in this one. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different right now. Before the team gets here, we're going to go show you the elusive pink locker rooms for Penn State football. This is what every visitor team does, rather, when they come to Kinnick Stadium. They get to see a pink locker room. And that was done back in the day to try to be an intimidation factor. But Penn State's had pretty good success here over the years. All right, let's do this. I'm going to set this down. Just kidding. We're going to give you B-roll packages of this right now. Little technical difficulties on the cell phone right there. But that's all right. This is the pink locker room for Penn State football that they see today. You see some jerseys already set out that we shot a little bit earlier today. Good little package there as you see a pink bus on the right-hand side of your screen. But nonetheless, that's a pretty cool addition for Penn State as they come in here to a hostile environment and see what that is. The pink locker room, always something unique for a visiting team. Getting a live look right there of the team rolling up to Kinnick Stadium. That water tower on the left right there is pretty much a landmark right next to the stadium. You'll start to see the Children's Hospital, which Iowa is known for when it comes to both the child care side of things. You see right there on the left-hand side of your screen. And then the Iowa Wave, which takes place during the game. For those that haven't seen it, be sure to be tuned in to the broadcast for that one. Whole lot of Hawkeye fans that Penn State's passing right now on their team buses. 4 team buses rolling up to this complex for the matchup between Penn State and Iowa. The Iowa Wave is what they call it. They've got signs all along the outside of the Children's Hospital right there, which is pretty cool to take in. Game in and game out. Good little shot there from Caleb Tyler on the team bus. Those windows right there, they've got signs in there, they've got flags, and then all the children that are a part of that moment will come to the windows during the game. I believe it's between the 3rd and 4th quarter, and do the Iowa Wave, which is always something pretty cool to take in, because let's be honest, at the end of the day, this is a game of football, and we're talking about lives just across the street. So cool moments for both programs to be able to spend a couple of seconds just with a simple gesture of hello. Now, right there, you're seeing Penn State fans, you're seeing Hawkeye fans. Penn State's buses have officially made it to the stadium. They'll now get off the bus and they'll walk towards the field. Some of them will take it in from the balcony, which is just outside of this shot that you're seeing right now. And then they will ultimately come down towards the locker room and get ready for this game between Penn State and Iowa. Good shot there of the team bus rolling in. I believe we've got another live shot, too. If we can flash over to the other one, I'll ask our producer to show the stadium. So this is that balcony that I was talking about right there, that the team, you've seen a couple of players right there come in and soak it in. Fox's Big Noon is just on the other side of that. They started their show on one half of town. They'll end the show on the other side of it. LeVar Arrington, a part of that show today, Penn State legend. But some of those players, they just simply walk up to that balcony, take it in, soak it in, enjoy that moment. That's one that they'll have in their head for forever inside Kinnick Stadium as you get a live look right there. Now join us after today's show for the Unrivaled Postgame Show as we'll wrap up our coverage from Kinnick Stadium, as we'll visit with head coach James Franklin and a couple of select Penn State student athletes. And as well, be sure to tune in to the Unrivaled podcast week by week, as we've got some great guests for you. We'll visit with more on that later. A great episode this past week, which was exciting and funny all at the same time. Kinnick Stadium, here we are. Welcome into the Unrivaled Pregame Show. Fast start for you. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what you want to see throughout today's show. We're going to be behind the scenes as much as we possibly can, just like this shot right here, to be able to walk you guys through what a game day is like for this Penn State football program. Head coach James Franklin just walked past us a couple of moments ago as he soaks in this moment. He does his pregame lap, which we'll try to carry for you in just a couple of seconds. He enjoys this time for himself to be able to soak it in, go through those final X's and O's, and make sure that his game plan is in order, as well as the rest for Penn State football. A couple players soaking it in on the balcony. You got both couple angles right there. Good to see. Beautiful day here in Iowa City, Iowa. Once again, it's about 85 degrees. Partly cloudy skies, only 47% cloud cover, and wind gust upwards of 20 miles per hour. Could that be a factor today? We'll find out later in this one. Steve Jones, the voice of the Nittany Lions, will join us here shortly on the Unrivaled Pregame Show to help us break down this matchup from his inside perspective, as he'll be on the call today with Jack Ham and company on the Penn State Sports Network. But for now, let's toss it over to Connor Griffin, who has more on, I believe, Penn State in general. Connor, what do you have for us today?
How's it going, Mitch? Yeah, just in general, talking about State College. There's a real vibe in this town, even though it is a road game. And obviously not as many people are in town. It is family weekend. It's parents weekend. So there are a bunch of people in town overall soaking in the vibes. I was out a little bit earlier. I was going around downtown. Definitely could get a sense of just how excited people are for this game. There are going to be a ton of watch parties. I will say that. I know I was speaking with the CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, Paul Clifford. He said that there were going to be, I think, over 150 watch parties across the country, or I guess for that matter, across the world. Might be even more for this game. It is obviously a huge clash between Penn State and Iowa. I know specifically the Center County chapter is having a watch party downtown. Definitely want to give them a shout out. So just a plug for the Alumni Association. If you are interested in maybe going to see this at a packed bar or a restaurant or just another cool venue with a bunch of other Penn Staters, if you are an alumni, feel free to check out your local chapter of the Alumni Association. Again, there are going to be a ton today. And then, of course, in the coming weeks, as we keep going through this football season. Definitely a cool opportunity there. But also, if you are watching this game at home, let us know. I think Mitch just said a couple minutes ago, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know exactly maybe what your specific game day traditions are. I know that we typically talk about when it comes to game day, being there at the stadium, tailgating traditions, what you do for home games. What do you do when Penn State's on the road and you're watching the game at home? I know my family, I don't know if we have the video queued up, but we've been doing something. There it is. That's our touchdown gorilla. Our touchdown gorilla, we've had it ever since the 90s. Whenever Penn State scores a touchdown, you can squeeze the hand of that gorilla, and then it starts playing music. It's playing songs from the Blue Band. It's doing that little dance. That's our touchdown gorilla. It is the highlight of our days whenever we're watching games at home. We'll decorate the room kind of like this, flags, pennants, banners, and then that is the centerpiece, the touchdown gorilla. The thing is amazing. Like I said, we've had it since the 90s. When that kicks the bucket, I hate to say it, I am probably going to cry. It is such a staple of our game day. So let us know if you do have anything like that, any wacky traditions, because it's definitely obviously a cool part of game day, and we definitely need as much mojo as possible heading into this game against Iowa, Mitch. So definitely be sure to leave a comment where you're watching, what you do. And with Mitch, I think pretty sure I'll send that over to you. You see Steve Jones right there. How's it going, Steve?
I mean, geez, when he kicks the bucket, that's a little aggressive. I hope that poor guy doesn't kick the bucket anytime soon. That was a cool little segment there from Connor Griffin. Appreciate you joining us on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. And now Steve Jones joins us here to break down this matchup between Penn State and Iowa. And before we get to our players to watch, a lot of storylines in this one. I was watching College Game Day this morning at Fox's Big Noon, and they're throwing around the defense, the offense, the special teams, whatever it is. When you break this one down and you start to think about what this matchup is, what is the key factor in this one?
Well, I think it does come down to the basic, the giveaway takeaway. And part of what comes to giveaway takeaway, as James Franklin walks behind us here, when you look at the giveaway takeaway, it's created tremendous field position for Iowa. Iowa is a plus 183 yards per game in field position. Their average drive starts at 38, the opponent's the 24. That's because of all the takeaways. Take care of the football. I think part of it takes care of itself. And when I'm looking at units, say you think Penn State and Iowa are even defensively. All right, so what's the third best unit on the field? Penn State's offense is. And I think, and you've got, I think, the best player on the field in Jahan Dotson. So I think those are some of the key factors I look at right away.
Well, there's no secret that Iowa will try to obviously pinpoint Jahan Dotson just as every single
Mitch, everybody has.
Exactly.
I mean, he's averaging 7 catches a game, and he's the guy every single game. Got to stop him. So far, so good.
No doubt, no doubt. And I know we'll get to our players to watch here in a second, but another thing that Iowa's defense has done well so far this season, when somebody breaks it down, their key terms are eyes on the quarterback,
no question.
All eyes on the quarterback.
Right.
How is that different than what Sean Clifford has seen this season?
Actually, not too, because they're a team that primarily plays quarters. They play zone. Sean has completed 69% of his passes against zone defense so far this year. He's actually been lower against man. Right? Well, this is a zone-covered team. Now, what comes into play, for example, is a kid like Jack Campbell, 31, 6'5", and a linebacker that really does a great job of dropping into coverage. and he causes you to throw the ball over him, which then, of course, can then cause a potential problem and an interception like we're talking about. Campbell's just a good player. Came in as a 3-star guy, plays like a 4.5. He's really a good player.
All right, let's get to our players to watch today, starting with Steve Jones, who is your player to watch in this matchup.
Well, I'm not going to go into like, oh, my goodness, how did he pick him? I'm going with Sean Clifford because, look, in this particular game, this is the guy that all eyes are going to be on. He has to be the decision maker, whether it's making a play like that to Jahan Dotson where it looks like he's going to run and then throws the football and gets a touchdown out of it. His decision making is going to be critical. Boom, fires it down the middle. Boom, there's another touchdown to, guess who? Parker Washington. And now in this play here, look how he just creates time in the pocket, that 3-foot circle to hit the long pass to Dotson. Penn State, this is going to have to be the guy. He has a good day. Penn State has a good day. There's just no getting around it.
That's Steve Jones, player to watch in this matchup as you get a live look right there at Kinnick Stadium, the field at Kinnick Stadium. Steve, my player to watch today is going to be Jordan Stout. We've heard so much all week about the defense and the offense and those matchups.
Sure.
You referenced it on Wednesday about the field starting position that Iowa's had so far this season. That won't be the case today going against Penn State. You got a guy like Jordan Stout who has been amongst the best in the country in the kicking game. When it comes to those punting opportunities, Penn State's done a nice job so far this season. Jordan Stout specifically pinning them inside the 20-yard line. Had a couple last week, and that's been a pivotal factor for Penn State this season.
No question about it. It's not only the ability to change field position when you're backed up and you need a long punt, but he dropped 4 inside the 20 last week. This 50-yard field goal I thought was so important for him against Indiana. That's his 4th career 50-yard field goal right there, just 2 off the school record.
Oh, it never hurts when you hit a 50-yard field goal, to say the least. It's always a good day when you can do that.
Yeah, you can do, but you know what? But again, that's scoring range. In other words, you get the ball to the 32, 33, you can get points because of a guy like that.
We've talked about this environment so many times before, but I'm curious from your perspective, from someone that's been in this facility, in this stadium multiple years after year, how does it play a factor for the guys down on the field?
I think it only plays a factor down on the field and just how close the stands are to the bench. I mean, that's the only part that I think is different. It's loud, but they're practicing loud all week, for goodness sakes. I mean, all of us had getting earplugs and things like that to go through it, so they're prepared for that part. It's just how close the stands are to the bench. That's the only factor to me that's a little bit different here than any place else.
Penn State and Iowa will square off today at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox, or, as always, you can listen to Steve Jones, Jack Hanneman, and company on the Penn State Sports Network. Steve, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mitch. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy it.
Thanks for stopping by. Let's take a closer look at this one from a social media standpoint of Penn State and Iowa.
Getting into Iowa, obviously got a ton of respect for Coach Ferentz. We talk about 23 years as a head coach at Iowa, 31 years overall. Just done a tremendous job. The level of consistency that they've had throughout their program, not only from a win and loss record, but from a coaching staff perspective, really all of it. It's a tough environment. There's no doubt about it. We got a lot of respect for that school and that community and the support that they give their football program. Obviously, there's special things about it. A wave to the Children's Hospital is, I think, one of the better traditions in college football. Tremendous opportunity that we're excited about. We're going to need to have great practice today and build on it all week long.
Iowa's opponents have gotten 4 turnovers from them. Iowa has 16 right now. You've been doing a great job of this. Let's continue to protect the football. That's in decision making. That's in ball security, high and tight. And then defensively, we're doing a great job of attacking the football. Let's have a great practice today. Ready for it. Big day today, baby. Let's go!
Break out! We are! We are! Woo! Oh, hell no! That's it. Lock it out.
Go let your body work, do all the talking, and we come back, laugh, have a party on the sideline. After all the big plays we gonna make. All right? CB! Give me those. Hey.
Ready, break. The 31st all-time meeting between Penn State and Iowa will take place today at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Now, pleased to welcome in Trace McSorley, a Penn State legend and quarterback, joins us here live on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. Trace, you've had memorable moments inside the stadium yourself, dating back to 2017 when you threw that winning touchdown with just seconds remaining in the back of the end zone. What do you still cherish about that night?
I mean, I feel like just about that moment, it was like as hectic as it was in that entire stadium that whole night. It was really just kind of like us in that huddle and on the sidelines right before going out for that play. And I really like just thinking back at it, like we really didn't have any doubt like that we were going to go score and that we were going to get the job done. For whatever the reason was, that entire night was back and forth struggle for us. But going into that play, like even that going into that whole drive, we all on our sideline knew that we had enough time. We were going to go down and score and win the game. So, I think just being able to look back on that and then the memory of our entire sideline rushing out and it being like crazy, their stadium just going silent. Those are some of the things that I always look back on and think about and just really cherish from that night.
Trace, those emotions are obviously running high, just as you said, the entire sideline game running out right after that pass, but the emotions are high all night long. So from your perspective as a guy that's been in that position, how do you control your emotions on a national stage such as this?
I think, pregame, you kind of like you soak it in a little bit. You enjoy the moment and you let the magnitude and momentum build. And then once you get into the game, obviously, they're going to have to deal with like crowd noise and handling that. So whether it's a different silent cadence, whatever they decide to use. I remember we didn't use any silent cadence. I just tried to scream and yell as loud as I possibly could every single time. So just however you're going to be able to deal with it. And then, especially at Iowa, like you get onto the sidelines after a drive and I remember you get down and you're trying to go over the adjustments and their stands are right on top of the bench. So you really have you're even trying to make adjustments on the side and just like a fan is right behind you, like yelling in your ear constantly. So it's one of those complete college football atmospheres that you live and die for. And, I think it's just, emotionally staying focused in on the game and focusing on what you have to do each play, each drive, and just taking one play at a time and not letting, the stage and the scene of it get to be too much.
I'm just going to assume that you probably had zero voice after that game, to say the least, with the cadences and obviously not being quiet. You had to vocalize your voice. But Trace, as a letterman of this program, why do you embrace a matchup of this magnitude between number 4 Penn State and number 3?
It's why you come to go to Penn State and a school like that. It's just you live for games like this, whether it would be an Ohio State game, Michigan game, or now Iowa. It's 2 top-level programs that are in the college football playoffs as they stand right now, competing for an opportunity to, be in the Big Ten championship and, competing for that playoff spot. I think that's kind of what you live for as a competitor, as a college football player. So, I think just the stage that's going to be there, the hype around this game, the magnitude of it. If you're not a competitor, this is not the type of game for you. And I think, that's just, for me, that's what I always thought about, what I dreamt about when I went to Penn State was just games like this. Chance to show out against a national opponent in front of a national stage when it really matters.
Well, very well said right there for the national stage of this game. Now, from one quarterback to another, in yourself and Sean Clifford, Trace, where have you seen number 14 take the biggest strides this season through 5 games?
How he's been able to come out every single game and be the same player. I think he doesn't, just from watching him, he's not trying to do too much. He's just coming out and taking what the defense gives him, and he's hitting the plays down the field when it's there. And, he's making plays with his feet. And I think those are the things that he looks like Deshaun that I knew when I was, my last few years there. He was just out there playing the game, not letting certain things get to him, not trying to overthink a play, just, oh, drop back, this guy's open, boom, throw it there. That guy's open, throw it to him. All right, now we hit our big shot. Now we're hitting those shots. He's letting the game come to him and not trying to force it. And I think those are some of the things that I remember talking to him a little bit after last season was those are some of the things that he just had to get back to. And I think that's been awesome to see him just let the game come to him, not force it, not try and, make every play a 60-yard touchdown pass. He's just taking whatever the defense gives him and making those plays. And then he's letting, the kind of off schedule plays come to him and be a playmaker and be a quarterback and just throw the ball around. So it's been awesome to see him just continue to improve and get better. And he's out there playing ball and having fun. It's just awesome to see.
Trey, so with that said, I'm super curious from your perspective as a guy that's played at the D1 level and beyond, how does the connection between he and Dotson, how does that come to fruition?
What you see on the field is probably a combination of two things. One is just how much work they've had to put in the offseason, throwing routes together, knowing, how Sean needs to know how Jahan's going to run a route. Jahan needs to know what Sean is expecting on the route, how he's expecting it to be run, the different holes in the defense they're trying to attack, and being on the same level, like mentally, just, how both of them seeing the play the exact same way, knowing what they're trying to attack, knowing what they're trying to get out of running a certain route, certain play, certain combination. Those type of things that I think, fans and people that they see the product on the field, that's what they expect. But then just off the field, knowing, getting to know the person, I think those type of things can really help that chemistry so that they can think the same. They can see the game the same way. And, as important as it is doing all the work on the field outside of practice time in the off season, it's as important to, know the guy and, be friends in the locker room, be able to have that kind of relationship with them so that you guys can think the same. And I think, they've always been tight, but I think now you're kind of seeing it all come to fruition. And it's not just a on the field thing. It kind of takes some time. So for them to have the year they're having so far now, that chemistry, I mean, you see, like, it's like they're one mind out there. You kind of, Jahan's breaking right as Sean's throwing it. Sean kind of knows exactly where Jahan's going to be. Even on a scramble drill, like they react and mirror each other the same way. And I think those type of things, they don't just come from, throwing routes late night. It's like you're in the film room together, you're eating dinner together. Those type of things that I think build that chemistry and camaraderie between two guys.
Well, you're certainly building chemistry both on and off the football field. That's a great perspective from Trace McSorley. Trace, we got to end on this. You've been the leader inside those huddles pregame where the camera's coming over the top of you. You're leading the charge from a quarterback perspective on the offensive side of the football. If you were to deliver a message to this Penn State football program today, what would that be?
One thing, just go out there, cherish the moment. This is one of the biggest stages in college football up to this point this year. It's a game of huge magnitude, but it's what you live for. This is why you came to Penn State, to win and play in games like this. So play for each other, go out, give everything you got, one play at a time, and everything else will take care of the rest. So you go out, you be you, make the plays when they're there, and it's a 1-0 mentality as it always has been. And I think those guys just go out and play for each other, play for their families, play for the school. They'll be happy with the result at the end of the night.
Trace McSorley, appreciate you joining us on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. Love the 1-0 mentality. Still sticks with Trace McSorley to this day. Appreciate you joining us on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. All right, as we continue to build up towards this matchup between Penn State and Iowa, let's step outside of Iowa City, Iowa, for just a second and visit with the third member of our broadcast team, Brooke Stake, who has more on what's going on around Penn State athletics. Brooke?
Thanks, Mitch. Like you said, lots going on here at Penn State, a total of 10 different varsity contests throughout Penn State. But let's get started highlighting some key matchups. Just starting last night, Penn State women's soccer took a win against Maryland. This all started with fifth-year senior midfielder Sam Coffey scoring 3 goals for a hat trick to start the game in the first half. Leading on later in the game, there was 2 other goals scored, but let's talk about another big series happening at Penn State right now with the men's hockey team. They fell 4-1, dropping their first game last night, but currently they are leading 2-0 to Canisius. That series is currently going on at Pagula Ice Arena. And finally, Penn State women's volleyball. Just here where I'm standing was a packed rec hall last night against Nebraska. But don't worry, if you missed it, they'll be back in action tonight against Northwestern. They're currently practicing right now. Team is just getting here, ready to get started. So lots going on here in Happy Valley before kickoff in Iowa. Back to you, Mitch.
Brooke, appreciate you providing us that insight of what else is going on around Penn State athletics. And for more information, visit gopsusports.com, as you can do every single day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. All right, don't forget to join us afterwards for today's Unrivaled post-game show, as we'll have immediate reaction from head coach James Franklin, and we'll go one-on-one with select Penn State student athletes. And then on the bottom of that graphic, you see the Unrivaled podcast, as it's back for its third season with 11 episodes available today. This week, it's highlighted by offensive lineman Juice Scruggs and Eric Wilson. Had a great chat with the two of them about all sorts of different things. And for more on that, let's take a sneak peek about that conversation.
At this point last year, I was in Nashville watching college football.
I was like Shaq before Shaq was Shaq. No dunking, though. No dunking. I was too little.
When I say boy choir, like you're probably thinking like, oh, it's probably not that serious. Like this was legit. Like we got uniforms, we're traveling the world.
You was like Michael Jackson.
Oh, brothers, let's go down, come on down.
God, I love that episode with the two of them, two offensive linemen for Penn State University. They were terrific on that episode of the Unrivaled podcast. You can catch that one and more on your favorite podcast streaming platform, whether that's Apple, Spotify, or Lion Vision. Live look inside Kinnick Stadium taking place right now as Nick Plesk provides us this view. He's one of our graphic designers for Penn State football, walking down the sideline, the exact same sideline that Penn State will have today inside Kinnick Stadium. Some of the Penn State student athletes starting to get loose, starting to get warm. You see Jaywan Sider right over there on the bench. He does that every single game, just kind of takes it in, has a conversation with himself, goes through those final P's and Q's, as he calls it, from a previous conversation back on the Unrivaled pregame show. Kickoff at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central on Fox or on the Penn State Sports Network. Should be a great matchup between these two top 5 programs today inside Kinnick Stadium. A lot of conversation both on College Game Day and Big Noon about this matchup. Rightfully so. Focused on the defense, focused on the offense, and focused on the special teams aspect of things. Steve Jones' player to watch in this matchup is Sean Clifford, just as it was for Kirk Herbstreit on College Game Day. Broke down some good footage on that one. If you weren't able to catch it, go back on ESPN and watch that. Same on Fox's Big Noon. LeVar Arrington, Penn State legend, is in town for this matchup. We'll hopefully try to catch up with him a little bit later on this one. Now, speaking of offense for Penn State, the tight end group has been special so far this season. Head coach James Franklin said a few weeks back there really is no separation between the 3 tight ends that are playing a pivotal role for Penn State's offense right now. And for more on that, caught up with first-year tight ends coach Ty Howell last night at the team hotel. Catching up with first-year tight ends coach Ty Howell ahead of Penn State and Iowa. Ty, you played back here in 2012. What are your fondest memories of that game?
Yeah, I think, it goes back to the time we had, with the brothers here on the team, and obviously it was a really exciting game, big win for us, and I mean, it means a lot anytime you can get a win in these type of environments in these games.
Focusing on this game tomorrow against Iowa at 4 o'clock Eastern time, from the tight ends room specifically, how has your group really taken big strides in the film room over the course of 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think the way they prepare, they come in every day. They spend a lot of time together, separate from me, going through film, studying their opponents, studying their techniques, what we're going to do in our game plan and how it applies to the film. And it's been really impressive the way they have just grown week in and week out and how they prepare.
Coach Franklin a few weeks back talked about how there really is no separation gap between the tight ends in your position room. What makes them collectively push each other day in and day out?
I think, you look at the 3 of those guys that are playing for us a lot. They do a lot of things really well, and there might be one guy who does one job better and the other guy that does another job better, and they're always trying to help each other how they can get better as a whole and bring each other along and complement one another. And so they've been really good working together to keep every single one of them enhancing their game.
Coach Franklin emphasizes the same message every single week. It's got to be a 1-0 approach. What message do you emphasize within your position room?
Yeah, I echo the same thing. I mean, because at the end of the day, we want to be 1-0 at the end of the week, but also on Sunday when we're starting to work on our opponent. On Monday when our guys come in and watch film. On Tuesday, that first big heavy day of practice it's about beating your opponent every single day leading up to Saturday. That's how you find success.
When it comes to kickoff inside Kinnick Stadium, 69,000 plus fans inside there. What's the X factor on offense within the tight ends room to make sure you have a successful day?
I think the first thing is always doing our job. Whatever it's called on to do, in the tight end room, we're asked to do a lot of different jobs, whether that's blocking, receiving, protection, completing our assignment to the best of our ability, but also as a whole, taking care of the football and when we're blocking, not allowing that extra defender to get in there. When we're running routes, being in the right spot at the right time, and all that plays a factor into it.
That's tight ends coach Ty Howell ahead of Penn State and Iowa. Well, appreciate tight ends coach Ty Howell joining us on the Unrivaled pregame show at the team hotel last night. Some great insight right there from Ty Howell on the tight ends and how pivotal they've been for this Penn State offense so far in 2021. We'll see if they become a factor again here against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Steve Jones was talking about how Iowa's defenses likes to read the quarterback's eyes, so could that open up some game for not only the Penn State wide receivers, but also the tight ends in this matchup. He's not the only that's not the only big-time position group so far in 2021. One big-time player so far this season has been Joey Porter Jr. as he continues to make names within this Penn State football program.
He had a guy who I think was playing outstanding football in Joey Porter Jr.
Merged in the end zone. Incomplete. Joey Porter Jr.
And it is picked off. Joey Porter has it, and it is.
Penn State's defense continues to rank amongst the best in the country, thanks in part to big-time playmakers such as redshirt sophomore Joey Porter Jr. Mitch Gerber alongside cornerbacks coach Terry Smith. Coach, Joey picked up his first career interception last week against Indiana. How has his game continued to progress through 5 weeks?
I tell you, he's growing into a big-time player for us. He's a playmaker. He's a tremendous cover corner. And each week, he's just putting more time into the game, and it's starting to show on Saturdays. He's become a student of the game. And, one of our points of emphasis this offseason was the jugs machine and trying to change the game, and I think we're doing that pretty effectively so far.
Takes the snap, they rush 4, back to pass, steps up in the pocket, dumps it off to Carr at the 30, Carr to the near side, take it down to 31.
You mentioned the time that he's been putting into the game. What are some specific examples?
All the DBs come in together and they'll do some extra film study. He'll make calls to myself, just cross-checking things, making sure that he's gotten the adjustments right and how will we play certain looks and things like that. So, it's kind of fun coaching this group of guys because they're so locked in and dialed in, and it's showing on Saturday.
Castro Fields and Joey Porter on the corners. They're big, they're long, they're physical. And Jaquan Brisker and Jair Brown, the safeties, two of the best in college football.
And tackle to the line of scrimmage. Nice play by Joey Porter.
Well, speaking of fun, Penn State ranks first in the Big Ten in red zone defense, holding opponents to a 53.3% conversion rate. How has Joey been a pivotal piece to that puzzle?
Well, his length, he's a big figure down there. He's got 35-inch arms. He's 6'2" in stature. They can't just throw a fade ball against him. They can't get the matchup they want with their 6'3", 6'4" receiver because our guy is as big as him. So his presence, his length, his athleticism, and then his cover ability. He's done a tremendous job of just covering the guys that he's been assigned to.
Check it down to Carr, who's in trouble, and tackle to the line of scrimmage. Nice play by Joey Porter.
What's something that fans don't necessarily know about Joey that he continues to shine within the program?
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest thing that I see from Joey is, he's a true family man. He has a little sister that has special needs. Actually, she's older than him, that has special needs, and he takes great pride in that. He takes great pride in just being a great person. He takes great pride in being a great teammate. And those are things that are so valuable for the continuity of a locker room, and that's what's making this team special so far.
This Saturday, Penn State, Iowa, number 3 versus number 4. Joey Porter will take the field for you guys. How is he a game changer in big-time situations like Saturday?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when we've played Iowa, the last few years, it seems like we play them every year now. They've always had some good receivers, and they like their matchups, and they'll take the one-on-one shots. We like where we stand with the matchup with Joey and the receivers that they're going to present to him. his length. It's imposing. And we want him to be at the line of scrimmage and challenging and rerouting and just getting them off of their first read and their second read and the timing of their concepts. So, Joey's done a great job so far. We expect him to go into Saturday and do the same thing.
Joey Porter and Penn State will take on the Iowa Hawkeyes this Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. All right, that was Terry Smith joining so far through 2021. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different. Tried to do this with the pink locker rooms a little bit earlier, but it didn't work out. So apologize in advance if it does cut out. But we're going to go road, and we're going to bring you guys around the field here on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. Just show you what it looks like here inside Kinnick Stadium. This is the only place where you will see this type of action, whether it's warm-ups, whether it's the sky cam right there, shooting from the sky, whether it's Children's Hospital right over there. All right, so let us know what you want to see. Any questions, comments, anything that you want for the next, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 minutes or so as the Penn State players start to come out and get a little bit loose for this matchup between Penn State and Iowa. Here's what they'll do. You can see the lights back there in the corner. That's where we just were for the start of the Unrivaled Pregame Show. They come down that tunnel and then out onto the field. You've heard the reference towards the tight sidelines multiple different times, I'm sure, this week. If you haven't, you just heard it on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. This is what those look like. So here's the bench. And then there's the stands. Get a little closer look further down here. About as tight as a sideline as you can get. This is exactly what it looks like right here. So bench, stands. You've heard about it all week, whether it's from a player's perspective or fans' perspective. This is as tight as it can possibly get. Look at that. You can't even get through right here. So here's the phones where they normally go back to, and they'll call up to the booth up there and have conversations. That's right there. And the fans are literally right on top of you. Ty Howell talked about that back in 2012, how they literally just sit right there when you're going back to the bench. You're trying to have a conversation with your position coach or your teammates, and boom, there they are. It's pretty cool right there. You see the coaches getting in the zone. You see Jaywan Sider getting in the zone with his music. All of Penn State's bench stuff, the kicking net where punters, kickers get loose. You see Deej right there, strength coach for Penn State football for a number of years, helping these guys get warmed up. See Taquan Roberson right there. Jordan Stout in the distance. Pretty cool from a seating perspective too. It's a big video board. This was a new addition not too many years ago. Here inside Kinnick Stadium. Here's one of the broadcast cameras. I don't think some people realize how ginormous these things are. This is what brings you the telecast. So the shots that you're going to see from the end zone today, and this perspective, that's what's bringing you that right there. It's a Fujinon lens, is what I'm being told. Very expensive lens, to say the least. Continue our lap around the field here at Kinnick Stadium. Here's the field goal post. Trace McSorley threw the game-winning touchdown pass on the opposite end zone to win that game back in 2017. Hard to believe that that's years ago already at this standpoint. 2017, 2019, Penn State had success in here as well. Nittany Lions haven't lost inside Kinnick Stadium since 2010. They've found a way to get the job done here, game after game. Catcher starting to warm up right there. So right over here, black end zones for the Hawkeyes with their yellow font.
Jesse Lucchetta and company, Arnold Ebicadi. All right, I'm going to stop talking for you guys for a little bit, and you'll get the all-access portion of this pregame show. All right, we're going to continue around the field here. We'll come back to that here in just a moment. The Iowa students have officially been let into Kinnick Stadium. Something that's pretty cool that a lot of people don't get to see ahead of a game is coaches coming together to have conversations. So many of these coaches have connections and ties from one point or another. See Coach Poindexter right there, Jordan Stack. Oh, baby. Warming up at the 50-yard line, getting loose for this matchup. He is my player to watch today from a field position battle. Right up there in the distance, you see some more lights in that little set. That's Big Noon as they'll wrap up their coverage from their show inside Kinnick Stadium. Not a bad little view for them. Jordan Stout getting loose, redshirt senior. Coach Poindexter. Specialists are usually the first ones out on the field for those that have never been to pregame warm-ups, followed by some of the offensive guys and then defensive guys. Sean Clifford, quarterback for Penn State, starting to get loose down here. Daniel George, wide receiver. Quarterback Sean Clifford getting loose. So much of this week's focus has been on Penn State's offense and quarterback Sean Clifford. He's got his AirPods in. Music bumping. Work with his quarterback. Kickoff, 4 p.m. Fox. October 9th already. Weather's 85 degrees here in Iowa City, Iowa. Wind gusts potentially upwards of 20 miles per hour today. But overall, partly cloudy. Good day for football. Feels like summer. Doesn't feel like October. All right, as we continue for a few more minutes here, let's try to get some questions, some comments, where you're watching from, what you want to see down on the sideline that you don't normally get to see when you're watching on TV. A lot of interesting, fascinating things that you never really, truly get to witness. Lisa, what's up? Kevin, Go State, right back at you. Hope you're good. Stamford, Connecticut. Idaho Falls, Idaho. Mario, thanks for tuning in. Kevon Lee, running back for Penn State. Getting his pregame routine in. Field goal net just went up, which means I'd have to imagine specialists are going to start warming up. Jordan Stout. Taquan Roberson right over here as well. Talking blue headphones. Four o'clock kick today for Penn State. It's going to be on Fox. Iowa still has yet to have some players take the field. How about this right here? This is the Big Ten replay system. So when they go under the hood, as they call it, this is where the ref will come over, and this is where he takes another look at whatever play is under review. It's the setup right there. So many different wires, so many different things connected for a broadcast like this. Some of the other things that make it happen basically send signal elsewhere to be able to not have interference with all the different cell signals in the crowd and all that type of different stuff. Danny watching your Hershey, PA. Appreciate you tuning in. Producer Ross said something about a wireless grab mic or something. I'm not going to lie. I have no idea what that thing's called. But nonetheless, it helps the broadcast happen. There's the Sky Cam. Everybody wave to it. It's like a little bug. Sky Cam brings you the overhead shots for each game. It's on like a bunch of wires. You got one over here, one over here, one over here. 4 different wires that it's connected to all the way in the corners of the stadium. Goes right over the top. Here we go, got some more Penn State's athletes out on the field right now. 3 Castro Fields. Got some of the offensive linemen. The tight ends, Theo Johnson, who we talked about with Ty Howell, if you missed that earlier. Go back and watch that conversation with the first-year tight ends coach for Penn State. Good conversation with him at the team hotel. One of the most dynamic playmakers in the country. Getting loose, getting ready for this matchup. right, warm-ups are going to continue right over there. Let's go back over to defensive guys. Just had a PJ Mustafer. Go back towards Penn State sidelines one more time here. The coaching staff are sitting on the bench, soaking it in. Brandon Smith, linebacker for Penn State, getting in his hurdle drills. Aaron, getting ready to head to the stadium. What's up, brother? That's Joe Platt. Fox Sports' Joe Platt. Fans, don't forget to join us afterwards for the Unrivaled post-game show. We'll be live immediately after the game with head coach James Franklin and a couple of Penn State student athletes to break down this matchup between Penn State and Iowa. Exactly where we were to start the show. Team tunnel. Is right over here to complete our lap around the field. 97 minutes. The countdown has officially begun for this matchup between Penn State and Iowa. Iowa students starting to file in. We've got the black and the gold layering today, similar to what Penn State's stripe out was last week. There you see the game information. Penn State and Iowa going to kick off at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 Central on Fox, as that's going to wrap up our coverage of the Unrivaled pregame show from inside Kinnick Stadium. Stay tuned to Penn State social channels for much more coverage leading up to kickoff, and we'll see you afterwards for the Unrivaled postgame show.
The question is, who's better? Is it Iowa or is it Penn State? It's the top team in the Big Ten.
Every year, you start looking in your preseason magazines and your helmet grid schedules, and you're trying to find that Saturday.
First meeting of top 5 teams at Kinnick Stadium since 1985.
This stage, this coming weekend, this is that next biggest opportunity.
It is the circle date.
Very tough to play in that environment. Fans on top of you. What a seed.
It is the game of the week in college football. It's number 3 Iowa hosting number 4 Penn State.
You are going to fight. Can't wait for this weekend when Penn State, Iowa go head-to-head.
So you've got the second best scoring defense in the country in Iowa, the third best scoring defense in Penn State.
We're going to have some great wars in the Big Ten, and it starts this weekend with Iowa Penn State.
Sprinting to just avoid his safety, and he cannot. Jaquan Brisker hurdles a man and makes a first down. Penn State has it. That's a big-time football play. Do you believe that?
Both are riding long winning streaks dating back to last season.
What is the biggest factor in determining who wins this game?
should be a great scene, and we hope a great game.
Everything, and I mean everything, is on the line.
McSorley across the middle. Touchdown!